Hey everybody, this is Adam Biggers, and a lot of you probably followed me from when I was a full-time beat writer from 2012 to 18 covering Michigan. I think a lot of you know now that I'm freelancing for SaturdayTradition.com, so follow them on Twitter @Tradition. I love interviews. I love getting good stories. I love talking to people who love talking about football, and one of my favorite interviews, a guy that I really enjoyed covering while I was at Michigan, AJ Williams. We're having a juice with the juice today, and
yeah. Let me make sure I grab mine. Hold on one second.
Definitely do that. And we're gonna have a casual talk about football. So I'll wait for AJ to get back. He's got a lot of insight when it comes to where Michigan football was and where it's going. So I mean, he's got a lot of information that you're not going to hear from a lot of other people. He was there, so I'll let you. What do you got over there, AJ?
Pedialyte, man. I got the old break, man. I played some basketball the other day, man, and I am let's just say your boy needs to hydrate and work out a little bit more.
Pedialyte is the best to get rehydrated.
Absolutely.
Gatorade, and I usually get the Gatorade Zero because I don't like a lot of sugar, and I haven't, I limit my caffeine intake. I barely have any caffeine whatsoever. And but even with Gatorade, I don't feel like it rehydrates you like Pedialyte does.
It doesn't. That Pedialyte hits harder. I call the Pedialyte the IV. The Pedialyte's the real IV. You can hook it up. You'll be back. You'll be back to doing whatever extracurricular activity you need to do in no time. So the Pedialyte.
We should do a commercial. Get right with Pedialyte. I mean, right
there. Hey,
that's the marketing angle right there. Get right with Pedialyte.
Sponsorship going, Adam. Let's reach out.
So once again, I want to welcome AJ Williams. AJ was a redshirt. You redshirt your freshman year, your senior year, 2015. You were there when Jim got there. There's so many things I want to talk about with you. A lot of stories I'm sure that you have. I mean, you were from when you were recruited to when Jim got there. I mean, it's even hard to say, but we're going to have this conversation, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So, AJ, though, I do want to ask you, take us through in the very beginning. Brady's your coach.
My God.
All of a sudden, how did you find out, and when did you guys know that Jim Harbaugh was going to be his replacement?
I think we were at the end of junior year, in the midst of that bowl frenzy, and we had found out actually that we had just we didn't make a bowl game. So that's kind of when that, what you would call that liaison period, right, where the strength coaches are kind of running things, and it's just kind of, the boys kind of taking care of themselves. And, I think that, we were in class still a little bit and finishing things up, and we go home for, break, because obviously we got this whole bowl season off, and, we get a link to a conference call. We're like, oh snap, like, what is this? And then next thing you know, of course, you got 112 goofballs on a call. We're all trying to be silent and keep it, and finally they kind of break the news like, hey, we're going with Jim Harbaugh, and that's the guy. I think the other couple people, it was someone from Youngstown at the time. I forget who that coach was. And then there was Les Miles, because I think he was available. So I think they had threw out a couple names, but, we were super excited about Jim, and we got the news, and we were like, okay, this is a guy with some pedigree, and this is the guy that's gonna take us, to that next level. Because as you remember, the Hoke babies, all of us in that Rich Rod class, we had meshed really well together. And a guy like me, you said redshirt, I actually was one of those blessed ones. My first game was at Alabama that year down in Jerry's World. That was my first collegiate game. So coming from that being in that prime light, us coming off that Sugar Bowl, transitioning to then not making it, and then Jim being named our coach, that roller coaster at Michigan, you're supposed to always kind of be at the top. We were on that up and down. I mean, one year I think we started 5-0, and then ended up kind of wetting the bed a little bit that year. And then you're thinking
5-0 heading into Michigan State week, if I remember.
Michigan State week, that's what it was. And and you know, you're thinking like all these years, you know, we've had the talent. You know, I think we were number 6 recruiting class. So we were just looking like, man, what's going to be that thing to push us over? Because as an Ohio guy, Brady Hoke is always going to be my guy. He was a Skyline native. He knew about the Skyline. He came in, said all the right things. So forever grateful, but we knew we needed that extra push. We knew we needed that, you know, something to get the rah-rah going. And Jim was that. You know, Jim came in as honorary or as different as you may call our coach. Attention to detail was something I think we were lacking at that time. I think that we were able to execute because of the talent we had, but that execution piece, you know, we were missing that. And I'll say this, from day one, Jim let us know that detail was very important. You know, I think it was the first day of spring practice, and we're like, hey, where is Jim at? We can't find Jim. You know, where is Jim? Turns out Jim is under the quarterback center exchange looking at hand placement. And you thinking like, this is the first time we're seeing this guy.
Was he like laying down?
He's laying, I can't make this up, Adam. He's laying down flat, looking at hand placement. And we're like, okay, attention to detail. That's what it is. You know, that's what it looks like. So as you can imagine, I mean, that spring ball into that we were working our butt off, because, you know, Harbaugh and all the coaches, they gotta weed out all the bad fish, right? They gotta weed out who can stay, who's doing that. And you know, that let us know from that spring ball all the way to doing what we would call, I think that was sprinting stations, where we would sprint. We were just competing every day. And I think that was something that we were doing with Hoke, but to the tiniest detail, I don't think that we had that, you know?
And I don't want to, because I want to talk about moving forward, but I'm curious about this. Did you guys know that Brady was on his way out? I mean, did you guys have an inclination like, hey, we're going to have a new coach here soon?
You know what? I'll be honest with you. I think I want to say, what game was that where we kind of got eliminated from bowl contention? I think we knew that's when we kind of knew that things were, you know, on the up and up. That's when the coaching staff, they felt that pressure, and as they should, you know, being at this job, you know, it's tough, but you know, you could see that pressure on there, and that's when we kind of started hearing the rumblings. You know, writing was on the wall at a certain point, and that's when, you know, we kind of figured a coach was on the way out, and they were kind of going to be shopping. Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, was Ward became the AD around some point in time around then, if I'm not mistaken, Ward. And then I knew that, you know, normally athletic directors want to bring in their own guy and kind of go out on the, you know, just starting to pick up on things. You know, you're seeing the writing on the wall. So, yeah.
And let me ask you this, and I'm not, you know, any speculation or anything like that. We know what's going on with Michigan right now. You know, we hear the chatter. Harbaugh, he does want to be there. He said he wants to be there. People are asking him for how long and stuff like that. As a player, what, you know, if you could kind of put yourself in these guys' shoes right now, you're hearing all this as a player. What is that like? Is it hard to keep focused at all?
I will say it is at a top tier program like Michigan. You hear the noise. I hate to say it. You know, all these Twitter fans, they think that there's a 1 in a million shot this kid sees that outlandish thing that they've seen, but the press, as kids, social media is a part of the game. We were coming in when that was on the cusp, when, right, you know, when digital directors, you know, had a digital actually started to mean something, because kids wanted their body on the, you know, that. So we were on the cusp of when that had began. So you kind of start to see that these kids see everything, and also they read every article that people publish too, and I think it makes it extremely hard to focus. Hopefully, because
read what I wrote about you.
Hey, listen, and you know what? And you got to take it with a grain of salt, right? But at the same time,
I remember something. It was you did have a false start against, it was Kansas State, but then I think you had a catch after that. And
I did.
And then that was like a momentum builder, but you did have a false start. I remember that.
I did. And you know what? Those and being that physical point of attack tight end, right? That you want to get off the ball so hard, but hold your water, right? And back to what these kids, back to the point, it's like these kids see it all, but at the same time, you start to get selfish, right? You're starting to think, okay, the portal's easy to hit now, right? The portal, you can be playing within 6 months. So at the time, I know we're thinking like, hey, are we going to have to make this work? Some of us are, there were a lot of transfers that year Jim came, right? So there was some of us that think like, okay, we're going to have to make this work despite all the odds. And then there were some of us that was like, hey, they need to go. Some of my teammates went and transferred and did their thing other places. And that's fantastic. But to act like these kids don't see that and that's why they make those decisions you'd be kidding yourself if you think a kid thinks that he's not going to play because he's seen this on this, so he might get weary and he transfers. So these kids hear all that, they see all that, and I think it makes it winning cures all, but when you're losing, you hear it all, man. You hear every bit of it,
When I've kind of long held this belief, and I've asked other guys, and I've gotten different answers, from different guys at different programs at different levels. But correct me if I'm wrong, though, and especially now where social media, everything, one tweet can be just blown up and taken away out of context. I've got to believe that, and I don't want to say any names. You know who I'm talking about, the Michigan SIDs, good guys. I'm still, both of them very good guys. I don't want to say that they do, but maybe somewhere in the staff, do they come to you guys and say, look, if you're going to, if you're doing media appearances, these are probably the questions that are going to get asked. Don't say anything stupid that can make a headline. I mean, do they come to you guys and talk about that? Because I've always kind of felt like that's been the case.
Michigan, I will probably say, is probably got to be the best with that. I think if you think about all the tradition that comes along with 100, I hate to say that, like I don't know what year we're on now, right? Because after you leave, it just turns into that. But whatever year of football I think that we're on, that comes with all of that pristine, institution, all that with it. So the first thing they tell you is this is what it's looking like. This is what you're probably going to see. So sometimes that's why you get those, what seems to be very monotone answers. And they're always because they know bulletin board material in this social media age can be the thing you like. It doesn't even be the thing that you tweeted anymore. You can like the tweet about the trade rumor or the coaching room, and then people blow that out of proportion. So these kids, I will say college football feels like it happened at the perfect time for us. We were right on the cusp of it. Get in, get out, and be the man that you are from it. But man, these kids got it bad, man. They want more followers when they sign on. They want they want the Photoshop on Funchess's body because it looks cool. I mean, it's the whole nine now. It's everything.
I'll tell everybody that's watching this. I mean, I can already tell that we could talk about a million topics, and hopefully we get a chance to today, and then in the future too. AJ's got a lot of great insight. Tell me about the first time, because I kind of want to give viewers an inside look at who Jim Harbaugh is. You played for him. It was coming in, he's replacing Brady, who you really held in high regard. Yeah. What was meeting Jim Harbaugh like the first time? Tell us. There's just the smallest details of the story. I mean, take us there. Let us visualize it.
Man, so you gotta, as you guys all know, Jim is you can call it different. You can call it detail oriented, orny. You can call it whatever the case may be. But there is no Jim Harbaugh, and there probably will never be a Jim Harbaugh. So I had the luxury of meeting him, but then being coached by his son. So in Jay, who obviously, with Coach Ferrino and him are my favorite coaches from college. And I remember meeting Jim the first time. And like I said, the first time we're at practice, we're like, what's this? What he's down on the snap. My first actual encounter that I remember, and you remember this, Adam. I was the big tight end, right? So I was the tight end, 280. The point of attack. I kid you not. Jim walks up to me first thing. He grabs this love handle about right here, right? He grabs this love handle. And he goes, "I think you need to lose a little bit more weight." And I was just like, I've been doing, me being a senior at this time, I've been doing this for 3 years this way, 20 plays a game pretty much, right? Right. Playing with 2 All-Americans at this point. I'm thinking like, I got it figured out. And obviously Jim just comes over and crushes my whole, ego with a grab of a love handle, right? Right. But essentially what he let me know and why I quadrupled my pass catches in 1 year was, if you're going to play the position, you got to play it fast. Whether you actually are fast, credit the Funches who was playing receiver, could have been playing receiver the whole time. Right. And then you got Big Butts and myself who are not necessarily trailblazers with this. No matter how much your weight is, you got to play fast. And I as I bulked up a little bit now, with the dad weight, I kind of need a little bit of a snap.
Oh, that's a flashback. That's good. Put it right there. That's yeah.
As I remember the love handle grab, I probably wish I got one right now telling me to lose that weight. But I mean, it was all worth it, right? I mean, I think they ended up publishing an article worth the wait. One of the, just being able to lose that weight and just fly around the field. And quite frankly, I tell people it was the nachos, but really it was Jim grabbing a love handle and me needing to get a little kick in my butt. So,
what was that? Was that kind of like similar? I mean, I imagine that that's who he is. That's how he interacts with people. I mean, how did the guys who'd been playing for Brady, how did everybody take it when they're like, okay, this guy's a much different guy than Brady Hoke? How did they take Jim's approach?
Adam, you got to think about it. We went from a guy, no headset until the fourth quarter of the game, to him needing a designated man to pull the headset back when things got out, when he was getting too into it on the field. So you go from one polar opposite to another, right? So the guys, I'm not going to lie, it was a transition. And I can tell you it was even hard for me because, you hear the stories. Jim, you hear the stories about Jim making NFL players run 20 gassers. You hear about the stories that some people rebelled back in there. You're like, man, how's this guy? But really, I would think it was Jim just trying to sort who needed to be there out or not. And as you know, Adam, there were some guys that left. Right. My brother Norfleet ended up going to Tuskegee, I believe, after that. My guy.
Tom McDowell, punt return.
Oh my God, the Bob guy, right? The Bob guy.
Yeah.
We ended up having a couple guys ended up transferring either my year or my year. So that lets you know, Adam, the regime was not for everybody, because that regime, insisted on being really selfless and honestly, it was beneficial because, as you can see, that Florida win, that team was special. A lot of people, all right, I will say this, Adam, a lot of people give that 2016 team credit, but that 2015 team was the team that actually won the bowl game, completed the shindig. Now, we shouldn't have got blew out the way we did in that game. You know what I'm talking about with those boys. But, for the most part, we were actually the class that even put the seal on the deal. So everybody's 2016, JT was short. But I'm like, hey, when you talk about the complete year and capitalizing it all, that was us, 2015.
Well, so Long said that I thought that Jake Rudock was the perfect bridge for you guys at quarterback. The perfect guy for that.
Jake Dad Rudock, I know he might see this eventually, Mr. wearing loose sleeves like this, Dak by quarterback, but was the best fit. And I'm telling you right now, Jake didn't have to have his display of first game be Utah. That year even itself is still different.
Good. I mean, you guys still played well at Utah, I thought, considering all the circumstances. I mean, that wasn't it was 24-17, right? I don't feel like that was a horrible game.
No, and I can tell you even, and God knows I love that. God knows I love me some Jed Fish, man, because I mean, you think about I think that's why it works so well. Jed Fish in that pass game, and then Drevno in that run game, with Jim at the helm calling it kind of when he needed to, that combination was, oh my gosh. With a smart guy like Jake, like I'm telling you, we were able to do so much that year with technically like a lot less time, a lot less like, resources compared to having like a quarterback in spring ball. You know what I mean? Jake wasn't even in spring ball.
Right.
Came at the tail end of workouts. So, imagine that year if we get that guy during spring ball and his first place to display that wasn't Utah. That year looks better, but that lets you know that Jim knew what kind of guys he needed to make the system go. You know what I mean? And he went and got Jake. He transformed me. Our line was phenomenal. I mean, what was Mason Cole a sophomore? Was Mason? I don't know. Was Mason Cole might have been a freshman or a sophomore at the time, but even to have that youth on the line, and Jim knew
he was a freshman in 14 class, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, Jim's trusting a sophomore at left tackle. You know what I mean? But he knew, and I think that one of the things that I'll always give Jim the credit is most of the time he's putting guys in the right position to succeed and doesn't have them doing too much. Now, sometimes you would almost argue Jim might need to put people in that situation more, because sometimes I think that. I love us to death, but we get reminiscent on having to be like Michigan football, 2 yards clouds of dust sometimes, like instead of adapting with the times, So I applaud Jim and being able to know the weapons he needed, but it's just sometimes, you got to wonder. It's been since those Hoke babies, right? Since that success was polarizing, So. It was the same thing with Rich Rod and Hoke. It looks like it's kind of the same thing with Hoke and Jim. It seems like coaches do the best with the other coaches' recruits. So
and that's been brought up as well. And now there are no Hoke recruits left. I'm trying to remember who the last. I think Eric Magnuson. I think Magnuson was the last one, because I believe he was redshirt senior. But I want to go back to the quarterback talk, though, because, I mean, Rudock comes in and boom, plug and play, and here we go. Even though Wilton Spate was a Hoke guy, I thought that Wilton so far has performed numbers-wise. I thought that he was a guy, okay, look, that 16-year build-up, what you guys did, and look, now there's quarterbacks. Why can't there seem to be a guy that just develops? I mean,
like the guy, right? Like we've been missing the. I'm not gonna throw out names, but and listen, I played with amazing quarterbacks. Devin Gardner, oh my God, I thought that is probably the best dual threat guy I've ever played with. The year was shoelace, right? But even then, I think you think about the true version of the quarterback that I think fit the system best that year. Jay Rudock, there was nobody that fit a system more perfect, I think, honestly, than Jake and Wilton did in that. And honestly, that also goes credit to Jed Fish too. Jed Fish in that passing game. A lot of people, don't know. Jed's a guru.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was a point that, and I brought this up to Harbaugh, because I mean, we've seen a revolving door with the offensive coordinators. I mean, you saw some different position coaches, defensive line. But Greg Madison was there for a long time, and then DJ Durkin, and I think Madison went to D-line coach when Durkin came in as a DC. But I mean, relatively the defensive side has been more stable. Offensively, new O-line coach, new offensive coordinators, all these special assistants. How does that, in your mind, kind of figure into things for guys? I mean, is it hard to just, oh, great, now I got to learn something new again the next season. Everything I just learned means nothing.
You want to go back even further. Let's talk about Rich Rod's guy compared to Al Borges, compared to Doug Nussmeier, then getting Drevno, and then getting Fish. I mean, I think I got 3 playbooks myself from the coordinators I had at Michigan. So you look at it, and I always think, I love if Nussmeier's playbook and Jed Fish's playbook. I'm telling you, if you could get that type of consistency in your program from people like that who are versatile, and those are the guys that are preaching to the kids. Because there was this, to be honest with you, the language is a hard part to adjust to, but the language someone talks to you is even harder to get to. Jared was coming in talking about, I need dudes. I need guys, and I need guys that want to be dudes so they can do this at the next level. I don't remember that talk as much when I was with Borges. I don't remember that talk with Borges wasn't the same. Nussmeier was coming in talking about who wants white envelopes every Tuesday. Because that's the goal, right? Everybody should want to go to the NFL. That's a possibility. Now, does everybody want to? No, necessarily. But that should be the goal, and that's how offensive coordinators should talk to motivate their kids. And when you get 3 types of different people coming in talking to the kids, then the goals get different. So now, you know what I mean? Now the goals aren't even coinciding. So let alone having to learn 3 languages, but imagine having to get 3 different types of coaching and having to adapt to that. I think that's the harder part than learning a playbook. Because at the end of trips is trips. You know what I mean?
Right,
Trips is go trips, and it's going to have a TR in the front of it, and that's most likely what it's going to be. But if a guy coaches with that fire and that mentality, and he can consistently bring that around me, and then you don't have to feel like you have to reprove yourself, you can get secure in who you are as a player. But if you have to keep rebranding yourself, things like that, it's tough, right? So I think that those kids, when you're going through that transition, stick to yourself and stick to the player that you know you are. But also, too, be open to having to be that guy in that specific system.
No, and there are a few position groups. I mean, I guess you could identify this with other teams too. But I mean, Michigan, the tight end position, I feel like once Jim got there, you were part of a really good tight end group. We've seen, consistent guys. I mean, Gentry, Sean McCune. Jake Butt, he was a Hoke guy. I mean, there's this Nick Eubanks.
Eric now, yep. Cincinnati boy up to Michigan like previous people. I mean, Adam, I think you look at the tight end position at Michigan, and of course, obviously I'm biased, but if you want the most, a lot of people have H tight ends and they call them tight ends. But if you want, multiple versatile tight ends that can do, Khalid Hill was a tight end, right?
Yep,
but that was
he was always fun to talk to. I'll still tweet with him. Khalid was a banger.
Khalid was throwing his body around with the best of them. And then you got the AJs who come in who didn't mind being physical. He had to be physical first, I think, before he started developing in that pass catching game, to be honest. And then you get the certified H's like the Eubanks and the guys who really do it. That's why you look at the tradition. You see people like Funchess who are versatile enough to play receiver, playing tight end in Michigan. That is where you can have somebody, and Jake knows I love him, Heath Miller-ish with the speed, right? Jason Witness with the speed, still an All-American, and have another guy like Funchess be an All-American at tight end and be 2 totally different players. You don't get that anywhere else but Michigan, to me.
I feel like the power bringing, and I remember when they moved Khalid to fullback and just bringing that power football back, I thought that was something that was going to work. And now we see it looks like Michigan wants to get a little bit more spread. I mean, what is your take on just where this offense has been the past couple of years? And I mean, it's a different look, I mean, I'm not really used to seeing a quarterback in shotgun and 3 out of 4 downs. You know what I mean? It's not. It looks different.
Since shoelace, at least, right?
Right.
since lace, right? Since the spread. But it's, to me, like I said, I talked to you. We have an identity issue. There are sometimes we want to be 2 yards in a cloud of dust, hand that thing off 20 times, and then there are times you want to be that 2 yard cloud of dust, but have 4 wideouts. And to me, I think that unless you have that receiving core that's blocking like that, that's harder to maintain. So I think identity-wise, you can be both, but you gotta what is it? Tendency breakers. You got to tendency break them the right way. We can't be shotgun and passing out a shotgun every time, but then every time we see I back and Ben Mason back there, it's a run. It's got to be. Our identity has got to be on the same page, consistently throwing in those tendency breakers, because as you can see, when they can tee off on us and we don't make any adjustments, and we bank on Don Brown and that fantastic defense that's always been top 10 every year, we're stagnant.
Let me ask you this, because with the identity, and I know that it could take time, for a new coach, but I mean, Jim knew Michigan. Obviously, he's got the kind of legendary status playing for Bo there. Identity-wise, I mean, because this is kind of a layered question. Do you think that Jim has done a good job of establishing identity, and is it kind of consistent with, I know you're not in the locker room, but it's still consistent with what he was in 2015? And B, what do you make of people who you see on Twitter, everybody's got an opinion, and bring Charles Woodson, bring Tom Brady, bring Mike Hart, all these just ridiculous suggestions, I mean, what do you make of that as far as people who want to get rid of Jim? So I guess the first part of it was just, has Jim done a good job in your eyes of establishing that identity and keeping that at least consistent through him?
Has Jim done a good job establishing identity? Yes. I think that Jim has made it, awesome to want to play at the University of Michigan again. It's great to be a Michigan Wolverine. I think that the pride that we have in that has always been, but not, if not even more, restored. But as far as the identity as a football team, it would feel as there are times where we want to be tough, pound, gritty, and then there are also times we want to be a spread offense, kind of, doing it that way. So I do think that Jim has done a good job, but to the standard of Michigan, actually, and the person that coached him, that's the standard that we actually should be holding it to. And if we're holding it to that, I think that we've underachieved a little bit. I think that our last bowl win should not be from 2015, because I don't think that, this is where everybody is this is where everybody is different, right? So everybody thinks that there's those 5 programs that have to be good for college football to be amazing, right? Usually that falls under USC back then, the boys down south, one team in Florida, Texas, right? And then I can count Howard to say this, then there are those other teams that, like, we're supposed to be good, but we don't have that, like, what do you say? Like, we tolerate too many losing seasons sometimes at Michigan, because we don't like to have those multiple coaches, that identity. And that's where I'm going to challenge, our AD to see, like, hey, yes, are we raising awesome Michigan men, and that's a part of the standard? Yes. And I think Jim does that and has amazing Michigan men leave the program. But come on now, Adam. Are we at the standard that we should be? And are we sometimes accused of caring a little bit more about what the Pope's doing over there than what the hell we were doing over here? I think so. So I think that we got to look at ourselves as a fan base, as alumni, as writers as well, and say, hey, yes, this is awesome that Jim has had that identity, and it's cool to have a Michigan guy there. But at one point, when is it about winning? When is it about Cincinnati, Ohio, Adam? You know what I mean?
Right.
I live back in Cincinnati, Ohio. Do you know what it is like being from this state
I can only
and
imagine.
having? Oh my gosh! I just wanna beat the boys so I can wear this. You know, I'm gonna wear that Letterman with pride always, because you know it's my home. But I'm trying to wear it with pride because we're winning. And Adam, that's the question: Are we winning enough for somebody to keep their job?
Is it so?
You know,
It sounds like it's serious with you. I mean, because I mean, you know how fans get, and I feel like fans are fans, right?
Yeah.
You don't really know until you played for that program. So that's why guys like yourself, Paul Feinbaum can say whatever he wants to say. Joel Klatt can say, I wouldn't be surprised if Harbaugh walks away. You know, all these, Colin Cowherd, everybody could say what they think, but what they think doesn't mean anything. What guys like you think, I think, carries a lot more weight because you are part of that program. I mean, we've heard Braylon Edwards be pretty critical of Harbaugh.
And for me, it's hard to even, because I'm always thankful for the opportunity. But if we're speaking bluntly and we're speaking truthfully, I want to win, Adam. I want to win more than I want to win more than I want to say that I know the head coach at Michigan. How about that? I want to win more than than it feels like to have your head coach accept you or still reach out to you. You know, I'm more to a point where it's just like, dude, what are we doing? You know, because Adam, I mean, maybe you tell me the identity, where you can beat a Minnesota, but then you lose to Indiana, which actually, if you look at it, Adam, Indiana plays us tougher than Minnesota does most of the time, really.
And something like that. And I mean, and that Michigan State loss, I mean, I got burned on Twitter because I was like, Michigan is going to roll Michigan State. It's going to be like, you might not want to remember, but I know Devin Gardner doesn't want to remember, but you're getting 6 times. That's what I thought it was going to be for Rocky Lombardi. I went so far out of the limb, more than I ever have in my life, and just looked like a total idiot because, yeah. I mean, you're like, yeah, how – and then you go, and then I wrote a column saying I thought the Indiana loss was much worse than that, just because everything on the line. Indiana hasn't won since 1987. You have to bounce back after you lose to Michigan State. It's not like Michigan. I mean, he's lost to Michigan State before. There's just so much going into it. So I mean, I can understand from fans' perspective, but let me ask you this. I mean, you say, okay, bam, Harbaugh, you're done. He's got a year left on your contract. Who else is going to come in? And what is that going to do to recruiting? I mean, and that's where I'm at that tipping point to where, yeah, all these suggestions, and some of them are just completely stupid. I mean, I want Tom Allen and Mike Hart. Why? Because they just beat you. I want PJ Fleck. PJ Fleck is making PJ Fleck, and I'm going to compare it to sports. Like how big Tom Izzo is at Michigan State for basketball, PJ Fleck is going to be Minnesota's Izzo of football. He's building his thing. And I mean, money makes people do strange things. PJ might row his boat over to Ann Arbor if they offer him everything. But I guess that's my point. If it's not Jim Harbaugh, and then who's it going to? That's not some ridiculous suggestion. Charles Woodson. What is Charles Woodson's a great player. He's an analyst. What has Charles Woodson coached? Hey Chuck, you just want to come in and be the head coach?
Do you want to?
Charles Woodson?
Do people want another figurehead head coach?
Right.
Like Brady. I'm Coach Hoke. Like I told you, it's my guy. I'll eat Skyline with the man any day of the week. But Brady didn't know enough about offense. He didn't know enough about everything, and if you want that figurehead head coach who just looks cool, good interviews, can give that rah-rah speech, for sure, go get that, right? But when you talk about what's his name at Northwestern, who will never get fired, because at the end they play everybody hard to the point where it's like it's not him because the boys are trying. We just don't, you know what I mean? So it's one of those things where it's like if you're not winning, you got to be that, right? But then if you're not that, what can you get to build that? Who has those foundations? And other than bringing Bill Cowher out of retirement, or what would be bringing
at this point, no name. Which I've heard Michigan fans actually suggest this. Not only Luke Fickell, and then they say, since Mark Antonio was at Cincinnati and then he went to Michigan State. Cincinnati is like a good pre-big spot. But I mean, Luke Fickell is an Ohio guy. I can't see him there. I mean, they want to mention. I even saw Michigan fans say Urban Meyer. I'm not even kidding. I mean, at this point, it's like, let me pick a coach's name. Matt Campbell from Iowa State, he gets mentioned, for the past couple of years. I mean, it's such an asinine argument, and people make themselves look really especially when they start throwing out Tom Brady. People have been, on these Michigan Facebook, get Tom Brady. Michigan fans, you didn't even like Tom when he was there. Now you want him to be your coach. He's played in that. Get somebody that's got coaching experience. You can't just.
Tom didn't even come back the first 10 years after he left Michigan. Adam, he wasn't even rocking with Michigan.
That's and so that I guess that's just kind of like where I'm at. Are you going to get a better football coach than Jim Harbaugh right now?
And honestly, this is the only thing it has to make sense. And if I'm thinking, you're right. Unless Les Miles wants to leave Kansas, unless somebody who, even Les would be even a risk, right? Like, you know what I mean? Because it's been years since LSU was. Well, since I've seen him in that light at a top tier program. So it's like, yeah, if you can get Urban Meyer to come up here, I think that might be the only Ohio coach I would remotely even feel comfortable with. And I wouldn't even say I feel comfortable, Adam, because do I know he's not secretly sabotaging?
Well,
secretly sabotaging.
And not only that, and I'm not here, but let's be honest, at Florida, not the squeakiest of clean. He had some issues at Ohio State. Are Michigan fans willing, let's just say in theory, are Michigan fans willing to, sell their soul to win, And I'm not trying to sit here and although I just said sell a soul, I'm not trying to demonize Urban Meyer. I don't know him personally. I've interviewed him like once or twice I asked him a question. It wasn't even an interview, on a conference call. But in that kind of, in that context, what are Michigan fans, what do they expect? Harbaugh's winning 8. My argument is he's winning 8, 9, 10 games. That's what Michigan football was.
Look, and that's where I hate Colin Cowherd for maybe being right on this, but that's where we fall in that tier, though, right? Where it's like, we know we're supposed to be one of those top 5 programs that's always supposed to be good. It's good for the landscape of college football, right? But do we have the harsh nature that Alabama has when their coaches and Auburn has when their coaches don't win?
Right.
And don't. Realistically, I'm not saying that they should have Lane Kiffin to anybody and told them that they couldn't get back on the plane afterwards or anything like that. But what I'm saying is, when does winning become the priority? And I think that, everybody calling for Jim's head, I think we got to think about who actually would be the person to replace Jim. And I don't think there's a better fit out there, but also like, what are we expecting as fans and alumni? Well, are we being real? Like, are we, what's the realistic expectation? So for me, Adam, I'm just going to go ahead and say, I think that we need a little bit of a change of scenery, or if you want to keep Jim on, I wouldn't mind it at all. But maybe in the special teams role, which is me not even trying to disrespect my coach or anything like that, but it's just to the point where it's right now the morale, you know, we were I think, what was it? We were 5-0, and then there were just some things you just can't come back from. There's some losses and enough momentum sometimes where I hope we do come back. But Adam, if we don't bounce back from this and this ends up being that type of year, you know, if this ends up being that type of year for us, I think we gotta get rid of Jim.
Well, and I'm trying to, and I couldn't get it on my phone because, I mean, I wanted to look up Alabama's. I mean, because obviously, you know, Nick's been winning there at Alabama. He coached at Michigan State from 95 to 99. Looked like Michigan State was going to be good after that 99 season, and then he just up and left. But, I mean, a team like Michigan, I feel like the thing that for fans that keep it real with themselves is you haven't been a national championship contender forever. And, I mean, Alabama had a period where Alabama was not good. There was a period – I mean, I remember when they were good with Stallings, and then I think in between there were a couple other coaches. And then, you know, Saban's kind of what brought Alabama, you know, to what we're thinking, you know, today, Alabama football. So, I mean, I feel like people – and back to your point, I mean, Harbaugh is a great coach. People want to – if you can't get to that point, I mean, there was a time where Michigan State did not beat Michigan.
Ever. Period.
When I was a kid, you know, I'm 38 years old. When I was a kid, Michigan State was not beating Michigan. That was a fluke. If they won, it was a fluke, or, you know, it was
2015. It was my boy Blake O'Neal, and while we couldn't spend the night at the house that night because they were giving my man too many death at the time.
You were guy. Oh yeah. I was at that game, and I said, barring something crazy, Michigan State's going to get its first win since I think 2012. And Rich Eisen, actually from ESPN, retweeted it with a quote and said, "What are you doing?" And all of a sudden, as that play unfolds, I'm sitting up in the press box, and I'm like, he's not going to score. You know, okay, it's a block punt, too little. He's not going to score. And then I'm saying, he's going to score. Jalen Wash Jackson, and he does. And then just immediately on Twitter, people are like, "Man, Biggers, you better get an escort out of there." I mean, it's.
Do you remember? You can hear a pin drop. I think, if I'm not mistaken, somebody might have had a heart attack. I think, or something like a couple rows back from the field.
I think I heard that.
It was literally so quiet that you could hear the pin drop. And I remember thinking, like, but a lot of people don't know this. Blake comes from Australia.
Right.
So in Australia, my man, they got to get rid of the ball. He's not from the American set of rules, right?
Right.
So he's thinking, I got to get this thing off, and that's why he does that. I don't know if a lot of people know that about Blake. You know, him coming from Australia, he wasn't all the way familiarized with the rules and that he could just fall on it. And the funny thing is, and this is what I love about Jim, the next day we put in a punt safe. It was a little too late for that punt safe, but you know, better late than never, huh, Adam? Right? Better late.
Exactly. And AJ, I'll go as long as you want to. Feel free to let me know when you got to conclude the interview. Hopefully, we could do more of these. But I do want to ask you a couple questions, though. I mean, back to the Harbaugh thing and with players. I mean, is there a chance? And I'm not asking you to say, you know, put words in other players' mouth, but do you guys shut down if they think, hey, this ride's over?
Okay. Let's see, if they hold on 1 second, I just got the fan pulled up. Hold on 1 second, 2 seconds. All right, give me that again. My bonus baby came in, and I had to say what's up to him. Give me that again.
Oh, no problem. and again, not for you to put words in current players' mouths, but when we do see all this negativity, all the speculation, and now they're, more media than ever, all this other stuff that's in their face, do you guys get a sense of, hey, this is over, this ride's done, and shut down?
You know what, Adam? I hope not, because I'm not gonna lie. I'm one of those guys where I always saw beauty in the struggle, man. I embraced my ride at Michigan. My ride at Michigan started off with Jadeveon Clowney. It started off with me taking a 41-10 loss at Alabama. Jadeveon ruining my teammate and getting being on ESPN for about 40 weeks.
Vincent was actually doing he's part of like a urban gardening initiative. He was doing a lot of stuff in Flint, where I'm from.
Literally, and shout out to VA too, because when I say I always been one of the best teammates, was always one of the most positive guys. But to that year going to, me quadrupling my passes, playing with Jim Harbaugh, beating Florida, that to me is the Cinderella story of Michigan. The highs of being a recruit coming in off that Sugar Bowl to that first year, to not even making it our junior year to a bowl game, right? And after getting whooped by Tyler Lockett in Kansas State, right? Like you of course you doubt it, but I'm a Michigan man, Adam. And I love this, and I love that institution, like they still pay the bills, right? like they still sit, and I need, and I'm a ride with them. So all those kids that sometimes, they do want to leave, and all those kids want that instant gratification. But I knew there was nothing better than being a Michigan man. And, outside of football, Adam, the opportunities and the luxuries having that block in gets you are better than you transferring sometimes and balling out somewhere, So for me, I was one of those people. I love struggle, man. I embraced it. Like I said, I played with 2 All-Americans and didn't run on any playing time, knew what my role was, and was just ready to do whatever's best for my team. So any kids that might be watching this, I urge you guys to, if you think you can stick it out and find your role on your team, do it, because there are guys that have roles in the NFL. There are guys that have those roles in their everyday life. So, I learned something from it. So, don't let that naysaying get in your head, man, because it's great to be a Michigan Wolverine.
Well, on that note, AJ, I'll let you go here. Again, I want to thank AJ Williams, former Michigan tight end. He flattened people for a living, clearing there's no AJ Williams. There's probably no Devin Funchess success, probably no, and not taking away from those guys, but it takes help, So, I mean, Jake Butt probably wouldn't have been Jake Butt to his fullest extent if it, guys like AJ and Michigan has those players. They've had that role after you, and they're going to continue to have that role. So, again, I thank you for your time, AJ. And, again, thanks, everybody, for watching. I'm Adam Biggers. You can find my work on SaturdayTradition.com. Follow on Twitter @Tradition. And follow me on Twitter @AdamBiggers81. And AJ, where can we follow you on Twitter?
Hey, man, and give me an AJ the Juicy 84, Instagram Juice the Flair 84 as well. I'm just keep supporting that positivity and love, guys. I know world's kind of trying to divide us, but it's never too late. Anything we can't come back from, y'all. So much love, much peace. Adam, thank you so much for having me again. I got more stories. We got more to do, man. This ain't the last time.
We're gonna try to. I know you have so many Harbaugh stories that we could probably just chunk that up. So I'll get with you later. Again, thanks again to AJ. I'm gonna let him get to his family and enjoy his evening. And thanks to everybody who's watching. We appreciate it.
You guys.